ABR Industries has just come out with what they are calling a new, improved, and more efficient version of RG-174, a cable that I have traditionally shied away from because it's not as efficient as RG-316. But I have a love-hate relationship with RG-316 because it's kind of a pain in the butt to work with. Its sole purpose in life is to kink. So today, I want to take a look and show you guys this new ABR 174 and compare this to a Brand X version of RG-174 and also talk about the physical characteristics between the new ABR 174 and RG-316. Coming up this time on Ham Radio Tube. And here it is. This is the new ABR 174 Coax from ABR Industries. Before we get too deep into it, you can save up to 20% at ABR Industries with code K8MRD10, whether it's online ordering or phone ordering. Just mention K8MRD10 and you will save money. So now, let's take a look at these guys. These are both 35-foot runs. Chuck from ABR was kind enough to give these to me at the Huntsville Ham Fest. And we have a couple different configurations. So basically, first and foremost, you can get just about any connector you want on these. So for example, this has just BNCs installed because I primarily use BNCs. They also have their inline chokes, which they can add on for you. This guy here, notice, has a PL259, but watch this. This guy unscrews. These are called FME connectors. And the benefit of these, say you have a bunch of different radios or different antennas that use different kinds of connectors. Well, with the FME, you can buy one length of coax and then just different connectors, whether it's a PL259 or a BNC or an SMA or an N connector or an SO239, one piece of coax with the separate connectors, and you're good to go. So that's freaking awesome. Now let's take a look at this guy real quick. The first thing that you'll notice, that I noticed anyway, is the jacket of this. I don't know the specs on this, I don't know what this is, but it is very, very relaxed. It's very flexible, it doesn't want to kink, it wants to lay flat, it doesn't want to catch on itself, it's very easy to deploy, it's very easy to retrieve, where comparing it to RG-316, which has, I believe it's a Teflon jacket, so it's a lot harder, it's more rigid, it likes to kink. It's especially noticeable when you're deploying it. Look at how silky smooth that just unraveled. It's beautiful. Compared to 316, where sometimes it unravels and other times it don't. And there's wrapping it back up. Look at that nice little kink we have in the 316 now. And then we have to, you know, go through the rigmarole of untangling this mess. And I use the over-under method too. And now once it's finally untangled, I can begin to coil it up. Again, using the over-under method. But the over-under method doesn't really matter for RG-316. It does what it wants. Versus the 174 that just coils out naturally and beautifully, same over-under method. This jacket is just so relaxed and just easy to work with. Oh, I love this. I love this. So the ABR 174 definitely takes the win over RG-316 in both deployment and retrieval. But how does it look compared to regular RG-174? This is some RG-174 that I've had for years and never used. I just put these connectors on today. And you'll notice the jacket on the ABR 174 is a bit more of a matte finish, where this is more of a gloss finish. This jacket, it's still very flexible, but you'll notice there are some kinks in here. This was on a antenna wire winder thing, snaked around it in a figure eight for, I've been sitting in a box for a couple years. But it is a little bit more stiff of a jacket. So now I want to take my Rig Expert AA55 Zoom and compare the losses in both of these cables. Both of these cables are the same length. This one, the Brand X, is actually about maybe 5 inches longer. I actually put these in my window and pulled them so I could get them tight and just get a good measurement. That's going to matter here in a minute when we put these on the Rig Expert and measure the length. But let's take a look at these. So let me show you what we're going to do. I've cleaned all the connectors with isopropyl alcohol because yes, the oils on your fingers can affect these measurements. So we have a PL259 to BNC adapter on the Rig Expert. I'm going to use an SMA to BNC female, and this is the short from my Nano VNA. So everything is clean. Now another thing to note, I'm going to be testing these cables coiled up. I promise you that does not matter. I've been to both ABR Industries in Houston, Texas, as well as Messi and Poloni in Ancona, Italy, and they both test their cables coiled up. So with that out of the way, let's go to our tools, and we're going to go to length and velocity factor. We want to make sure for the RG-174, the velocity factor is 66, and we'll go ahead and take a length measurement. So we've got 36.75 feet, which is interesting because this cable, when stretched out, is only about 4 or 5 inches longer than this. So keep that in mind. So now we'll back out of here. We'll go to cable loss. We have an open there. Collect its data. Then we'll go ahead and connect the short. And notice what we get here. So let's test this at a few different places. Let's start with 10 meters. 28.6, we're 1.9 dB of loss. Let's zoom in there for you, okay? Now, if we go up to 6 meters, and these cables really aren't all that great for higher frequencies, but 50.6, we're 2.7 dB of attenuation or loss at 6 meters with a 35-foot run of standard RG-174. Let's go down to 14 meters. At 14.300, we have 1.37 dB of loss, and it goes down from there. So this cable is really fine for, I would say up to 10 meters, depending on, you might not want 2 dB of loss on your cable at 10 meters, but that's the sacrifice we make when we want a small, lightweight, compact cable like that. Now, let's take a look at the ABR 174. So now let's check our length and velocity factor again with the ABR 174. We'll go ahead and swipe that. Notice we get 35.47 feet, which is the actual measurement of this cable, where this one was showing a little bit longer for some reason, which tells me that we're getting a more accurate reading with the ABR 174. So now let's go to cable loss, and we'll run these tests again. Doing the open, then we'll connect our short, run that. And now let's check 28.6, we're 1.58 dB. Go up to 6 meters here. Only 2.09 dB with the ABR 174 at 6 meters. And let's check down at 20 meters. We've got 1.3 dB versus 1.37. So in the lower frequencies, we don't see as much of a difference. But for those of us that like to hang out, there's 15 meters and even 10 meters, some would argue that that's acceptable on 10 meters there, 1.5 dB of attenuation. So that, I would say, is a marked improvement in performance on the ABR 174 versus brand X 174. So that's pretty awesome. Now, as much as I would love to do an apples to apples comparison between the ABR 174 and ABR's RG-316, I do not have a 35-foot run of RG-316. This is a roughly 25-foot run, and this is a roughly 50-foot run. So let's just take some measurements just so you can see for the heck of it, and we'll just use 28.6 as our litmus test. So the ABR 140 is 1.58 dB of attenuation at 28.6 megahertz with a 35-foot run. Let's try the RG-316 now. So we need to go into the length and velocity factor because the velocity factor of RG-316 is 69. So we can see this is approximately 25.74 feet. Now we can go run our cable loss, connect an open circuit. That is done. And then we will connect our short, run that again. And at 28.6, 1.07 dB. So a little bit shorter, it's 10 feet shorter, but we've gained about a half a dB in performance with the RG-316. So it is still better, but just to show you, let's do I think this is a 50-foot run here. 51.47 feet of RG-316. We'll run our cable loss measurements on this. Connect our short. Run that again. And at 28.6, we're 2.18 dB at 50 feet. So still the 316 kind of beats it, but is it worth it to have a much more relaxed coax and easier to deploy and retrieve coax? I don't know. I've used this cable twice now and out in the field, and I like it. I like the performance. So if you're looking for a more relaxed, almost as efficient as RG-316 cable for your small, lightweight, portable ham radio operations, check out ABR, give them a call. They'll make you whatever you want. And just mention code K8MRD10 and you will save money. My name is Mike, K8MRD. Thanks for watching Ham Radio Tube. We'll see you next time. 73.